16 weapons ringed a girl who wasn't moving. She sat cross-legged on the cracked arena floor, palms flat on her knees, humming some tune none of them recognized, while 30 of their classmates groaned in heaps behind her. Not one of the 16 standing could explain how a threat that had stopped moving still felt like the most dangerous thing in the room. That's the part nobody put in the official report, that she won the last of it by doing nothing at all. 20 minutes earlier, none of them would have believed it would come to this. 46 cadets from a dozen worlds stood in formation on the Academy's assessment floor. Maya Tors didn't. She leaned against the barrier wall, rolling her neck, like she was killing time before a bus, and the whispers about her had already circled the pit twice before Commander Thalen called the room to order. "Something amusing, cadet." His voice rolled across the arena, 3 centuries of command behind it. "Recalibrating my expectations, sir. Wasn't expecting a warm-up group this large." A Gorlak named Bricks ground his fists together like millstones. "I could end this by closing one hand." "You could try," she said. "You need to catch me first, and you move like a landslide with a bad hip." Thalen read the parameters. 1 against many, 30 minutes to survive, weapons capped at pain and bruising. The bell rang. For 1 full second nobody moved. Then a beetle-armored cadet named Vex broke first, and the fight that would rewrite the Academy's understanding of humans began. His shots never found her. She didn't dodge so much as unravel around each bolt, already somewhere else before the plasma reached where she'd stood. "Predictable," she said, 3 meters left of her last position. A Voran named Corin came at her blind side with a fist that could crack a hull, and she caught it. Not deflected. Caught, her fingers closing over granite knuckles while the shockwave split the floor tile. "Impossible," Corin breathed. "I get that a lot." She turned his own momentum against him and threw him into the wall hard enough to crater it. 3 more came at once, trident, fists, fangs, and she used each against the others, redirecting a strike into a shoulder, catching a lunging throat with a hand that never looked back to find it. "The difference between us," she said, conversational even mid-throw, "is that you all found a niche and settled into it. We never got that luxury." By the time Thalen called the first tally, 5 down, then 23, the remaining cadets had stopped spreading out and started clustering, some animal part of them recognizing the shape of a hunt before their conscious minds caught up. "You're not our prey," one of them said, voice cracking. "Then why are you huddling like it?" 16 were left when they finally understood a fair fight wasn't coming. They pulled into a tight ring, weapons out, fields of fire overlapping, textbook defense. Maya looked at the formation the way a person studies a crossword they've already solved, then sat down in front of it, cross-legged, hands on her knees. "What is she doing?" Zara hissed, silver fur on end. "Waiting," Maya said pleasantly, "for you to notice the flaw in your own circle." Nobody answered. Seconds crawled. She began to hum. The weapons trained on her started, almost imperceptibly, to waver not from fatigue, but from something worse. The creeping certainty that stillness from her meant something was already decided. "Stress cracks a formation faster than an attack does," she said. "You're not defending against me right now. You're defending against each other's doubt." And it was true. Eyes that had faced outward began flicking sideways, checking neighbors instead of threats, the ring loosening 1/2 step at a time. "Last chance," she said, standing. "Walk away with your dignity, mostly." "Warriors don't surrender," Bricks roared. "Hoped you'd say that." She ran, not at them, but straight up the barrier wall, boots finding purchase where gravity said none existed, and launched off the ceiling brace in an arc that dropped her inside their own circle before a single weapon could track her. 16 guns pointed outward at nothing. "Checkmate," she said, and 90 seconds later the floor held 46 bodies, and 1 girl with a shallow scratch on her arm, breathing like she'd finished a light jog. "Human victory," Thalen announced into the stunned quiet. "0 fatalities." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Hours later, in an office lined with weapons from dead empires, Thalen, Admiral Vexeter, and a rattled Dr. Quilvin sat across from her, staring at a medical scan that made no sense. Heart rate resting, stress hormones at baseline. A girl who had just dropped 46 trained combatants looked, by every instrument in the room, like she'd taken a nap. "What percentage of your capability did you use today?" Vexeter asked, and something in his voice had gone very careful. Maya considered it honestly. 15, maybe 20. The silence that followed had weight. Quilvin's feathered crest trembled. "You were holding back that much." "I was being careful not to hurt anyone, Doctor. That's not the same as holding back everything I have." She let that sit before she went on. "You're building your threat models around species that found one advantage and specialized. Claws, venom, mass, speed. Humans didn't get a specialty. We got a planet that tried to kill us every day for a few million years, so we learned to solve problems instead of trusting biology to save us." "Give me an example," Vexeter said. "I grew up on a mining platform in the Saul Outer Belt. Pirates raided us when I was 8. My parents put a plasma cutter in my hands and told me to hide until it was over." She said it the way someone recounts a chore. "I got bored after 10 minutes, tracked their pattern through the maintenance shafts, picked off their footing one at a time, then sealed the boarding party in the cargo bay and vented the compartment's air until they agreed to leave. I didn't kill them. I was 8. My parents would have been upset." Nobody in the room spoke. 12 armed adults, Quilvin finally managed, held by an 8-year-old. "Human 8, she corrected, "not standard 8, and I want to be clear, that's not exceptional for us. That's closer to average." She stood and crossed to the star display, looking out at the pinpricks of human colonies scattered along the rim. "Every species you've met before us picked an environment and adapted to fit it. We forced the environment to fit us instead. That's not a strategy. It's just what happens after you almost go extinct 6 separate times and keep coming back angrier." Vexeter's scarred face had gone still, and if humanity ever faced a threat to its existence, a real one. Maya turned from the window, and for the first time since the assessment began, her voice lost its warmth entirely. "Then you'd see the difference between us being good neighbors and us stopping." She let the words land before softening, just slightly, at the edges. "Everything today was us being polite, Admiral. I'd hate for anyone to find out what we're like when we're not." The comm chimed before anyone could answer, an intelligence officer, voice tight, reporting pirate fleets abandoning entire sectors of the Outer Rim, fleeing something described only as human ships that don't match any registered design. Vexeter looked at Maya. She looked genuinely unbothered. "Merchants," she said, "probably got tired of paying protection money and decided the math worked better their way." "They're civilians," Quilvin said weakly. "There's no such thing," she said, "as a human civilian who stopped being human." She picked up her jacket from the chair and moved toward the door, humming that same low, unplaceable tune from the arena floor, the one that had made 16 armed cadets doubt themselves before she'd thrown a single punch. At the threshold she paused, glancing back at 3 of the galaxy's most decorated officers, all of them staring at her like a door had opened onto something they weren't ready to see behind. "Get some rest, gentlemen," she said. "Tomorrow I'll show you what 15% actually costs me." The door hissed shut. Down the corridor, the tune kept going, unhurried, all the way out of earshot.